Now, I don't know about you guys, but I find this really nice to look at. Goal contributions absolutely everywhere over the last few weeks for Bruno Fernandes. It has been great to see him finally freed to play in a slightly higher role from where he has been absolutely incredible. And for me, I think he is one of the very best players on the planet right now. Now, as I mentioned there, the great thing about Bruno Fernandes' recent form is that it has come in a higher position, in his more natural position. We've seen him a lot over the past 14 months doing deep shifts, picking up the ball off the centre backs, doing a lot of defensive work on the edge of our own box. Just look at his heat map so far this season. You can see a lot of defensive work, a lot of positions where he is very deep in our own half. If you now look at his heat map from the past two games though, suddenly very different. Suddenly freed up to play much higher up the pitch. Now don't get me wrong, he still contributes in every phase because that's what Bruno Fernandes does, but it has been great to see him allowed to play that little bit higher. He now basically runs every Manchester United attack. If United are moving the ball forward, you can guarantee that Bruno Fernandes is close to being involved. He is doing something. Whether that's movement off the ball or dictating the play on the ball, Bruno Fernandes is having a massive impact. And Michael Carrick deserves a lot of credit for, as a manager, as a coach, taking the best creative player anywhere on the planet, one of the best players in the Premier League, and putting him in his best position. Now, I would actually go as far as saying as I think this is the best version of Bruno Fernandes that we have ever seen. He has always been an amazing player, someone who has dominated for Manchester United, but right now I think he is the most complete version of Bruno Fernandes that we have seen, which is a huge credit to him to just keep improving year on year. You know, if he stayed the same level he was in 2020, it would have been impressive, but he's just getting better year on year. He's adding more and more to his game, and I think he is now a much more complete player. I think previously, a few years ago, we talked about Bruno Fernandes and how he would open up large spaces, how he was great when the game was open, the game was stretched. You're on the counter-attack, you want Bruno Fernandes because of his long passing ability, his ability to, thread the ball through an eye of a needle and create something out of nothing. But what we've seen, particularly in the past 3 weeks, is a very different side of Bruno. A Bruno Fernandes that can go and operate in very tight spaces. And I think his close work has been really good. If you look at United's pass maps from the past few games, you can see that in every single game, Bruno Fernandes has been involved in close proximity play in one way or another. Now that has changed, the zone on the pitch. Sometimes on the left, sometimes through the middle. But every time, Bruno Fernandes has been trusted to go and make little 3 versus 3 scenarios with his teammates. And I think in those moments, some of the technical details from Bruno has been absolutely fantastic. His flicks round the corner, the little bit of pause that he's putting on the play now, and his short passes have all been incredible. And it's been absolutely pivotal to everything that Michael Carrick is trying to do. This isn't just Bruno providing with the last pass, which he is doing as well. This is Bruno dominating the play in every single phase. He is doing everything for United on the ball. And I do think his spell as a deeper midfielder has actually helped him a little bit because he's played in a position where he can't lose the ball quite as regularly. So he's got to be a little bit smarter with his almost risk assessment. He's got to take those moments where he recognises we can't lose the ball here, but I think that's made him an even better player. There's certain bits of pause that he puts in his game now when he picks up the ball to just slow things down a little bit before then quickly re-injecting the speed. I think he's been absolutely magnificent, and again, the tight space work, the passing combinations recently have been magnificent. Now, the other thing that Bruno Fernandes has proven over the past few weeks, but also over the course of the full season, is that he can affect the game from multiple parts of the pitch. Again, a few years ago, we used to talk about Bruno Fernandes and his ability to create from the left half space, and how amazing he was in this zone of the pitch. But recently, we have seen something different. We've seen that he can do both. Look at his chance creation maps so far this season. This is Bruno creating from literally everywhere, including set pieces, but also that left half space and also the right half space. And you sort of get a different Bruno Fernandes depending on where you're playing him. Against Manchester City and Arsenal, we can see that his average position was more to the left-hand side. Now, from the left-hand side, the left half space, I think what Bruno offers is actually quite obvious. It's a very easy route back inside the pitch, something which so many top teams in Europe are struggling to do right now. But because Bruno is right-footed, when he plays on the left side of the pitch, it brings him back inside. But he then also has the boldness, the bravery, the courage, and then, of course, the eye for the pass to play inside opposition's blocks. And with Michael Carrick trying to put more focus on the middle of the pitch, this has been absolutely pivotal. Bruno Fernandes' ability to allow United back inside. Look at the combination with Patrick Dorgu. It's Bruno's right foot that allows us back inside the pitch before Dorgu absolutely lumps it into the top corner. That's because of Bruno Fernandes. The great thing, though, is that the opposition know that. The opposition know how much of a threat Bruno Fernandes is. So the second he picks up the ball in the left half space, what opposition teams tend to do is just shrink their defence a little bit. They just come a little bit more compact because they are so scared of what Bruno can do through the middle. Of course, the consequence of that, though, is now that there is more space out wide. Now, there is an argument that at the moment United aren't making the most of this, because we don't have a proper left winger to go and play 1 versus 1 in this space. But again, we can see the tactical role of Bruno Fernandes. His pure existence, the existence of his skill set, is causing opposition defenders to try and defend in a different way. And that's because they know in just a split second, if they are open in the middle of the pitch, Bruno Fernandes can absolutely kill them with a slide ball down the outside of the centre-back, from where the forwards can run onto, and, you know, Bruno Fernandes has killed you. Now, Bruno Fernandes' ability to play in the left half space has always been very, very obvious, but what we've seen over the past month, you know, including Darren Fletcher's reign, is a little bit of Bruno Fernandes on the right side as well. You can see his creation zone. He's doing a lot on the right side of the pitch. His heat map against Fulham, again, he's actually playing now more towards the right-hand side. And here you get a different Bruno Fernandes. Naturally, right? When you take a footballer and you move them 20 yards across the pitch, you're going to get a different type of player. Now, something that we have to highlight is that Bruno will always cover every blade of grass. He'll always pop up everywhere because that's what Bruno Fernandes does. He's a high-volume player who wants to be involved. But like I said, when he's on the right, you get something a little bit different. And again, tactically, that has actually helped us quite a lot. You see, now Bruno Fernandes' right foot, rather than taking him inside the pitch like it did on the left, is actually going to take him towards the outside. But for Manchester United, this has been quite useful because we've got Ahmad on the right wing, our best 1-versus-1 dribbler, our best isolation player. So having Bruno able to regularly supply him with these passes has actually been a huge positive for us. The other thing that Bruno can do when he plays in the right half space is deliver the most deadly balls into the box that you will ever see. Because when he gets himself into this position, sort of outside of the opposition's block, he has that moment where he can stop, he can get his head up, he can have a look in the box, and then his right-footed deliveries whipping towards that back post are insanely good. We sort of talk about this region like a Kevin De Bruyne-esque zone of the pitch, but Bruno Fernandes is as good from this area. From the right-hand side, whipping that cross in towards the box, and his teammates know it. His teammates know that he's willing to try it first time. Now, sometimes he's going to get it wrong like here, but again, the threat, the ability in any moment to receive the ball and first touch, just destroy an opposition's defence, for me, is unrivaled in the Premier League at the moment. The other thing that I just quickly wanted to touch on when Bruno plays in the right half space is the way that he can supply his forwards, because it's a little bit different. When Bruno Fernandes plays on his left, I think you can see that movement where the striker starts outside of the centre-backs and then moves inside, and Bruno Fernandes is able to slide that ball. When he's on the right-hand side, getting that ball between the centre-backs is a bit more difficult now. So instead we see a bit of a different movement from our forward. I think the movement now needs to come from between the centre-backs, spinning into the right channel and playing in that space there. A little bit like what Bruno Fernandes did for Benjamin Sesko against Burnley just a few weeks ago under Darren Fletcher. Again, it's a way in which Bruno Fernandes can create, again, in a different manner. So just in two sides of the pitch, we can see 6 different ways that he is having a massive impact on the creativity of Manchester United, but also the ability to create and exploit space. That's absurd. Now, on top of everything that we've discussed so far, Bruno also has the ability to produce moments of magic, produce pure quality, with very subtle details in the way that he plays. His calmness, his composure, but also his ability to see things that I don't think other footballers can see. This goal against Manchester City, I've seen it broken down before, but we will go over it again. It's Bruno Fernandes driving forward on the transition. And what he's doing the whole time, Bruno Fernandes, is taking in information. He's a very intelligent player because he's always getting information into his head. He's always having a look where his teammates are. Here he knows that Ahmad is on the right wing. That's what he's doing here. He's looking at Ahmad. But he continues to drive forward, and Bryan Mbeumo makes the run across him. Now, I think this is clever from Bryan Mbeumo. Mbeumo is left-footed, so moving to the left is a good idea. But also, Bruno is making his movement from left to right. So for the Manchester City defenders, this is now a little bit tricky because you've got Mbeumo moving one way, you've got Bruno going the other way. It's difficult to pick these players up immediately, right? It just complicates things. Then Bruno Fernandes does something absolutely genius, but incredibly subtle. He takes a touch with the outside of his right boot, half a yard maybe not even that, to his right hand side. But what this does is it just unsettles Donnarumma. Look at Donnarumma here, and then look at Donnarumma here. He just shifts his body, his momentum, just a little bit to the left because he thinks Bruno is going to go out to Ahmad, who's just off picture over here, as we mentioned earlier, Bruno looking at him. What Bruno then does, though, is reverses the pass back the other way. So he's sort of shifted Donnarumma. If you look at Donnarumma now, I don't feel this is sort of optimum position to be in as a goalkeeper. That's not the great posture, right? And the ball from Bruno is so good. He knows that Mbeumo is left-footed, so rolls it across his body. Mbeumo doesn't have to take a touch, and he's in this great position where he can shoot. It's so subtle, but so clever from Bruno Fernandes. Then there's this moment against Fulham, which ultimately wins Manchester United the game, and it's because Bruno is a genius. So we've got Sandro Martinez deep in midfield on the ball, having a look up, which is something that you want to see. At the top, we've got Ahmad, and then look a little bit higher, we've got Bruno Fernandes pointing at Ahmad, telling Licha, I need you to pass to him, mate. And the reason why Bruno wants this particular ball played is because he knows how the Fulham defenders will respond. He knows here that Calvin Bassey is now going to come racing out to close him down because he knows that Fulham now essentially want to shift man-to-man on this side of the pitch. Next up, the ball from Mazraoui is a good one. It's a solid pass through the lines. And Bruno knows, because he's already seen Bassey earlier, he knows that Bassey is coming in with momentum. Right, Bassey is quite a strong tackler, someone who likes to go in very robust in these challenges. And Bruno does something clever. He almost fake plants himself. He puts his feet on the floor. He almost stops himself, and this happens for like a millisecond. He just pauses himself, and that's what encourages that movement from Bassey, because Bassey thinks that Bruno Fernandes is going to take a touch and go backwards. So as Bassey, you got to race in behind him and put that pressure on, right? That's what you've got to do. But then what Bruno does, he does the fake plant, and then he just drops the shoulder, and Bassey is now sold. An absolute dream. Bruno races into the channel, good speed, good strength to hold off Bassey, who's a strong fella. Bruno does so well here. And then he plays that ball into the box. He knows that those Fulham defenders are going to drop off towards the penalty spot because they have to. That's your job as a defender. So what he does is he just pulls that ball backwards a little bit so that Benjamin Sesko can get that separation from the centre-backs. It is so good. Now, for me, it's these things that we've looked at so far which makes Bruno Fernandes stand out from the rest of the league on the ball. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's an absolute dream. He can affect any type of game now. He can play slow. He can help United control and dictate the game. But also, he can still break a block. He can produce that moment of quality. And on the counter-attack, he is still fantastic. He can play on the right. He can play on the left. He's brilliant. And we haven't even mentioned what he does defensively. Bruno Fernandes is an absolute workhorse. He had a hamstring injury just a few weeks ago. And now he is back to covering 1,000 miles a game, running himself into the ground every single match until the 90th minute, covering every single yard. Now, my criticism of Bruno will still always be that sometimes defensively he likes to anticipate in the high press and can sometimes get caught a little bit short because of it. But again, you cannot doubt the workload. You cannot doubt the work ethic, the desire to win a football match. He leads the team with the way that he plays off the ball. And I actually think recently he's been a very important player for us. We saw against City in particular, the way that Bruno would help mark the centre-backs, but could also then track back into midfield as well. And also the brilliant screening job that he did on Rodri. I'll leave a link to a video that I covered on that because I think it was very clever the way that Bruno Fernandes defended. He basically stopped Rodri from ever having an impact on the ball because he was able to screen that pass through the middle. So not only is Bruno Fernandes doing all of these incredible things in possession, but defensively, again, he is leading from the front. He is setting the standard, and that is what this football club has required for so many years, a leader. And Bruno Fernandes is a leader in every single way, in the way that he applies himself off the ball, the way that he works hard, the way that he adapts to different instructions, his pure quality on the ball. He leads by example, and then just in the dressing room, you can imagine that he's an amazing guy to have around. He's just incredible. Now, if you couldn't tell, I'm a fan of Bruno Fernandes. I think he's been put in some conversations and some debates recently which are borderline disrespectful. Bruno Fernandes isn't comparable to anyone on the planet right now. There isn't a player out there who can do what Bruno Fernandes does. If you were to try and replace him in the transfer market, you're probably signing 2 or 3 players to try and replace Bruno. Manchester United, in my opinion, have to do everything to keep this guy. People will talk about him being 31 years old, but Bruno is getting smarter. He's relying less on his body, on his intensity, and more on his brain, which is a frightening prospect. If this guy gets more intelligent and can do more different things, then he's an absolute joke. I don't know if we've ever seen a creator like him in the Premier League. I think he is that good. Right now, he is the best player in the Premier League, apart from probably Erling Haaland. Bruno Fernandes is so good. United have to keep him. As a big club, which is what United claim to be and want to be, right? We want to be challenging for trophies. We want to eventually make that title push. you can't sell your best player. You build around Bruno Fernandes. You give him all the tools around him that he needs to go down, really, as a Premier League legend, because that's what he should be. He's already a Manchester United legend, in my opinion. I think he's one of the best players to ever play English football, and United, you know, just have to keep supplying him, keep getting him in these good positions. I think Carrick is doing a great job with the coaching work now. The tactical role that Bruno Fernandes is in helps him thrive so much more. But also, Ruben Amorim did, in a way, help Bruno Fernandes, because playing that deeper role did make him look at the game in a slightly different way. And now we have got just this amazing complete player that I think we are all in love with, because every single week he produces ridiculously high quality and is a leader for this team, which is just fantastic to see. I love watching Bruno Fernandes, and I really hope it continues for several years more. Will it? I don't know. I'm a little bit scared about that whole situation. Like I said, I think it takes about £300 million to replace him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. But right now, Bruno Fernandes is one of the best players on the planet, and he plays for Manchester United, which is why, again, you know, it's happened a lot over the last few weeks, I've got a big smile on my face. But we are now going to stop the video there. So thank you guys very much for watching this one. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and get your notifications on. And as always, I will see you all in the next one.